Oh snap, it's a HandyCam. That's right, we have a Sony HandyCam. More specifically, this is model DCR-DVD92. There are different models. I believe there is a 108 variant which has more features, but this is the one I currently have on hand, and it's the one that this video is going to be about. Now we'll get a little bit more into the differences later on, but to start off, along with older Apple devices and just retro tech, I really do like HandyCams. Now, it's partly because I really like their designs, I like how they function, but it's also nice to actually use them since, well, it's probably easier to get them nowadays. It's just much more fun to mess around with. Now, of course, there are also the models that take video 8, high 8, and digital 8 tape, and there's also a VHS-C and VHS, and unfortunately I don't really have that many HandyCams. This one I can power on and I can show you guys how it functions, but of course this isn't a rewritable disc. No, this is actually Super Mario Sunshine. These are 8cm discs, and they do have special writable and rewritable versions, but I only have some GameCube games to actually show you guys the sizes. I know you guys will ask, and I will show it in the video later on, but no, it doesn't play these. And yeah, that's unfortunate, but what do you expect from Super Mario Sunshine being played in a DVD HandyCam? Anyways, let's actually start off by looking at this. So on this side, you have the screen and some information along with some buttons. Now, the information basically says this is 20 times optical zoom, which if you don't know what optical zoom is basically a zoom where you can actually zoom in and you don't lose resolution. You don't lose quality in the picture. Now, with digital zoom, you can get farther zooming, I guess, but there's the cost of losing resolution. So fortunately, at least with actual cameras, you can have bigger lenses, and that enables you to have optical zoom, or at least greater lengths of optical zoom, which really help with image quality. Now over here there's the Sony logo, and there are two buttons underneath it. Now the backlight one basically turns off the backlight. I don't know how often you would actually use it, but it is an option. And the easy button is basically, if you take this, let's say you have a full battery, an empty DVD, you turn it on, press the easy button, everything's been configured now to automatic settings, and it's pretty much just ready to go. And of course, one of the biggest, fanciest parts about this camera, apart from the DVDs of course, is that the screen is actually touchscreen. Now, yes, this is a camera from 2005, and it was manufactured in October, so that pretty much makes it 15 years old now. And this does actually have a touchscreen with a pretty simplistic type of operating system, and it actually is pretty responsive. On the actual screen itself, there are controls for the zooming in and out, and of course a record/stop button. I don't know how often you would actually use these, since there are also controls, physical controls, located on this side where you would actually be holding it, but it is an option in case you want it. Over here, there is a speaker, which is for the system beeps, such as whenever you're navigating menus, or for playback. Now, this does actually have Dolby licensing. This has Dolby Digital Studio Creator. I'm not entirely sure what that means, but it's got Dolby, so that's cool. And of course, there's just certification that, you know, this won't explode when you're using it. And there's also another button here which it has display information or battery info. I'm assuming that on the 108 model there is another button here, since there's obviously an indentation. To end off the screen portion, there's also a reset pinhole to reset your settings. Okay, so on this side of the camera, you have your viewfinder. Now this does actually extend. It does not go up, but it does pull out. There is also a focus adjustment on it. It's nice to have, but personally, I would probably use the screen more, but you do have the option. Now this is where the battery goes. The eject button is down here on the bottom. You press and you push to pop out the battery. This is a InfoLithium P type of battery, and this specific one is NP-FP50. This is not exactly the high capacity one, but it gets the job done. Those are the battery contacts, and Sony is kind enough to even show you where the positive and the negative terminals are. So that's always cool. On this side, there is a record/stop button here. This is just a switch where you can turn it off, and then you can switch between modes. Those modes are indicated by an LED. There is the playback mode, the camera mode, and I believe there's some sort of editing mode. There's also a charging LED to let you know that the unit is charging. It's a more simplistic type of mode selector, since I do know on older HandyCam models, or probably even on different ones, they have specific options, physical options on this, instead of actually just moving this to switch. Now here's the hand strap. It's a different material than the typical 90s ones where they fall apart, and this one doesn't fall apart, so that's always nice. I'm not entirely sure what material they used for this, but it is nice to not actually have it fall apart in your hand, and then you'd have to find some sort of replacement. DC input is here. There is just this little tab, and that's where you plug it in to charge. There's also a wired remote port. I know that on the 108 model, it actually has infrared 4 remote controls, and this one might have it too, but there is a wired remote option. This one might only function through the wired remote, since it did not come with a wireless remote. And of course, the main part of the camcorder, this is where you put the DVDs themselves. The top side is pretty simple. There is a Night Shot Plus switch, not just Night Shot, but this is the fancy version. There's the access switch, which is a momentary one. You just pull it and then it will open. This is an accessory port, I believe. It even has its cover, which is always nice, but you could probably plug in an external microphone or some sort of light or something into that. There is your zoom in and out controls, and there is also a photo button. Even though this is technically a camcorder, you still can take photos with it, so that's always nice. The front side is pretty simple. There is the part with the Dolby Digital logo, but that's also a panel for AV output. This takes some weird proprietary connector, but Sony did use this for numerous years on many different camcorders, so a cable is probably not that difficult to find. This is where the microphone is. This is where the infrared for Night Shot is. There's also the small little LED there to indicate when you are recording. And of course there is the lens cover hiding that pretty fancy 0.7 megapixel resolution sensor. Yes, this does have a 0.7 megapixel sensor, but even though it sounds kind of bad, it's actually pretty good for what it is. Now, unfortunately, my battery does not work, but thankfully, I do have a functional power supply. This might be a weird cable like the AV cable, but Sony did use this for many different camcorders at the time, and this specific charger is model AC-L200. So let's actually demonstrate the software side of this. Okay, so we got the camera plugged in, and that blinking light, for those who don't know, indicates that the battery is not taking a charge. On Sony's site, it would pretty much just say take it out and make sure the contacts are not corroded or dirty in some sort of way, and try again. And if that doesn't work, well, then you gotta just get a new battery. But that's to be expected, since this camcorder is now pretty much 15 years old, and who knows how often these batteries have been used. But it is nice to actually have an official one, since it won't complain that there's no battery or anything. Now let's actually turn this on. Popping off the lens cover and actually powering on the machine. We have a nice Sony logo. Starting off, it tells you, yep, there's no disc. To actually demonstrate you guys the optical zoom, this is actually really nice for what it can do. Now let's say for the memory stick, the farther we zoom out, I know I can't get that great of an example on camera, but this looks as good as it would if you were pretty much right next to it. For a camera from 2005, that's pretty nice. And of course, there is the viewfinder, and since it is intended for your actual eye, it is a bit difficult to see on camera. Starting off, let's actually check out the menu. Now, there's P menu, which is essentially a selection of presets that you can do. You can edit what is in here, but for all the features, I will go and set up, and I will actually show you guys everything that the camera has. And yes, of course, it is a touchscreen. It isn't that big of a touchscreen, but again, this is 2005, and it's pretty good for what it is. So this is, I'm pretty sure this is auto exposure. You have the option for automatic, and pretty much you can change this to different lighting, customization, with all these different options. Automatic seems to work fine though. Next we have spot meter, which is essentially, I'm pretty sure this chooses something to focus on, or like a main part to, I'm not entirely sure, but nonetheless, it is pretty interesting. We have exposure. Now that one's pretty obvious. You can manually adjust this, make it darker until it doesn't exist, or you can just set it automatic. Automatic seems to choose it pretty well, so that's always nice. White balance, which is also pretty obvious. There's a couple of presets, but again, automatic does the job well. Auto shutter is pretty much, what do you think of it? It's just automatic shutter. That's usually left on. Spot focus, I'm pretty sure they do similar functions, but you do still have the option. Focus is what you think it is. You just focus in on the object. Focus is probably usually best set on automatic. Super Night Shot Plus, that's pretty much what you think it is. You turn it on or off. I'm pretty sure Super Night Shot Plus is a bit more enhanced than Night Shot Plus, but you do have the option, which again is really nice to have. Night Shot Light is the, well, it's the light for the night shot. I'm pretty sure if you turn this off and you turn on Night Shot, yeah, it doesn't turn on Night Shot. If you accidentally turn on Night Shot, I guess it's nice to have, but you do have the option. Color slow is, yeah, it has to do something with the colors, obviously. Digital zoom is pretty interesting, since, I don't know if I mentioned this, but this does boast 800 times digital zoom. By default, that's turned off. So the zooming that you have right now is entirely optical. But if you turn on, let's say 40 times digital zoom, it'll start to use digital zooming. I can't demonstrate this well on camera right now, but you do have the option if you never want to use digital zoom, or if you only want to use it in 40 times or even 800 times, you can change that. Wide select while selecting the aspect ratio. 16:9 would be better since it would fit most modern displays, but 4:3 is also nice if you're recording in a more low definition recording like EP, and it would be great for something like CRTs. Steady shot is basically reduces the shakiness of the video. It's kind of like optical stabilization in HandyCam type of naming. Fader is part of the digital effects. It's pretty much to fade in, I'm pretty sure, and out. Digital effect. Now this one is pretty interesting since, well, it changes the actual image, and old movie is basically just making it in a, I guess, not grayscale, but brown scale. You have this entire menu just for these two options. Picture effect. This is kind of like digital effect, and it's pretty interesting as well. It's like the photo booth presets that's like in iPads or iMacs with all the interesting options. This one's pretty interesting since it's like automatic blurring. Pastel is pretty much just taking the outlines. Black and white is black and white. And then sepia just kind of looks like the old version again that was in digital effects, the old movie. Coincidentally enough, it's a grayed out. Demo mode is, well, just demo mode. I'm pretty sure if you just leave this alone, it'll start doing that. Now this is a section for the actual discs. Formatting is required unless you have the DVD plus rewritable. I'm pretty sure the Sony version. Formatting is required for every time you want to take out the disc, or at least whenever you're done with it, to view it in a standard DVD player. You don't have to format if it's, again, the Sony version, the DVD plus rewritable. Yeah, it lets you do that since, well, you gotta actually finalize the footage somehow. And there's finalize and unfinalize. There's also disc title, and now we have record mode. There's high quality, standard play, and long play. It's kind of like a mix between, I guess, the actual tape formats, since they have standard play and long play. High quality, I'm not entirely sure how high of a resolution it is, but it's probably the maximum that DVD supports, which isn't exactly high definition, but it's nice to have. Now this is pretty much just a microphone level. I don't know why it's just normal and low, but I guess there's the option. This is for using this, I'm pretty sure. This is where if you want to plug in an actual microphone. LCD, this is, yeah, the LCD controls brightness, color, and the viewfinder as well. Disc remain is, I'm pretty sure it's the disc version of the counter that is on tape formats, you know, showing you how much you have left. Or I guess just looking at this, you know, there's still a lot left on the tape. Record lamp is, well, self-explanatory. It's that LED that's on the front. And if you just want to turn that off while you record. Beep. Now I turn this off because it can get pretty annoying, but you turn it on and it makes that classic HandyCam beep. But every time you press on something, it makes the beep, which is why I turned it off. Display output, this is basically where you want to display it. So with clock set, that's pretty much, you know, just setting up where you are located at your time, language, and that's it. It loops back, and that's pretty much it in the menu. Closing out from the menu apparently restarts it. This is the demo. Now, I was not expecting that. I don't know how I actually got into this, but check it out. Touch panel. I really did want to actually record something with this, but again, I don't really have the DVDs. I don't exactly have rewritable DVDs. But before we end this video, I did say I would put in the Super Mario disc and we would actually see what happens. So let's get the display open again. Close this disk access. So it's trying to spin. Disk error. Remove disk. What actually happens as I professionally hold this camera? Let's try. It no work. Preparing to open. Let's try it again. Let's see what happens. Disk error, remove disk. Well, I guess saw it here first. You cannot play Super Mario Sunshine on your Sony HandyCam. Yeah, it keeps trying to spin, but it does not read it properly. I'm pretty sure that's because it cannot find where to actually start reading it from. In the case of a blank DVD, it would probably be pretty much instantaneous. Who would have thought? A whole DVD drive in the palm of your hand. Now this is the future. Who needs tapes, right? In all honesty though, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know that this is probably not what you guys were expecting, but I really do like these older HandyCams, and I've had this for quite a while now, and I haven't really been able to mess around with it since I still haven't found any DVDs. Now, of course, I could get some online, but those aren't exactly cheap. Actually pretty insane how much some of these can go for. A lot of the older HandyCams are still really sought after, especially if they fully work. This one, unfortunately, again, I don't have any blank DVDs to test this out with, but I'm pretty sure it works. I can hear it trying to spin up, but I'm pretty sure because it's a GameCube disc, it can't properly read it, and of course that's why it doesn't work. These are really fun to mess around with, and I would like to get more of these, get more older Sony cameras, HandyCams, that type of stuff, since I just find this really interesting. There are cameras that can use both memory sticks and tapes. I'm pretty sure that they're digital 8 tapes, but still, that's a tape format with memory sticks, which is pretty crazy to think about. Let me know what you guys thought about this. Did you guys like this type of content? This is probably going to be a longer video since, well, I pretty much covered the entirety of the camera as best I can anyways, and I would really like to come back to these. I would like to get some more and show those off in future videos. I do have a couple more, but unfortunately this is pretty much the only one I can use since I actually have a working power supply. Even though the battery is shot on this, I can still actually power this on. Now I would like to get some sort of rewritable discs and actually test this out, and probably a working battery for this. But I also would really like to mess around with more tape formats. Right now I do have a VCR, I do have a couple of camcorders that take tape, but unfortunately I don't have a converter card yet. But once I do find one, I will definitely be making more videos, especially with tape formats, or even just like messing around with them, or even recording entire videos using something like Video 8, High 8, Digital 8, VHS, whatever. So let me know what you guys thought of this video. If you guys like this type of content, be sure to support the channel and stick around for more, and be sure to join the Discord and the subreddit, and the links in the description down below. And thanks for watching.